Welcome back to Wellness Wave Radio. Thanks for tuning in this morning to ride the wave with us. Each week our goal is to give you at least one suggestion that will make your life a little better. My name is Phil George. I'm a clinical biochemist, a certified personal trainer, and a health coach. Please remember that everything we discuss in the show is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Always seek the guidance of your medical professional. You can see behind me here, Nature Wants Us to Be Fat. This is a really good book by David Perlmutter, and it kind of goes into it. But what we want to talk about today is a lot of people, they say, I just don't have enough willpower to lose weight. I don't have this, I don't have that. So give you a little bit. Really, you're hardwired to be fat, and I'm going to explain why. Now, we've only really lived like this, modern, pretty much, modern society, the last 50 years. There's a really good show on the History Channel called The Food That Built America, and it goes into how we got into these ultra processed foods. Actually, it started about 50 years ago. In fact, I have the first seminar I do when I do seminars is called 50 Years of Madness. And it actually started with Eisenhower when he had a heart attack. But I'm going to actually go back even further than that. So let's go back into the Wayback Machine. Let's go back into Neanderthal days, okay, when we were all cavemen walking around. And so what would happen, and again, we've only lived as modern man, I'd say last 100 years, okay, before that. And if you look at in terms of if you put evolution in a clock, we'd be like about 2 minutes into that clock at the most. Okay, most of the time we will live in basically in a world where we had to go out and hunt our own food. We didn't have refrigerators. We didn't have anything like that. In fact, I'm so old. I'll tell you how old I am. I'm so old that we actually didn't have a refrigerator. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and it was called an ice box, literally an ice box. So there was a thing, they used to come around basically with these big ice blocks, and we would put it in the top of the ice box. There was no refrigeration, and then eventually, obviously, we got a refrigerator. But back then, again, you'd have to keep, the food back then didn't have a lot of preservatives in it. You'd have to buy things fresh. You'd have to keep it refrigerated. And that was only, that's 60, 70 years ago. So this is modern. It's modern, and to where we're living right now. So we're basically, what we've done is we're hardwired basically to store calories. So let me explain why. So for millions of years, we were basically in caves, and we wake up in the morning, there was no food, okay? So we had to go out and we had to hunt. Now, if we had a successful hunt, obviously we'd have the food and we'd bring it back. And again, we'd have to eat it in a relatively short period of time. Back then, though, people are kind of smart. They figured out salt would preserve things. So maybe they could probably heard of like salt jerky and stuff like that, or they would dry it out. But normally we would go long periods of time without eating. So again, we've done this for millions of years. So we've gone millions of years basically without, going long periods of time. And that's where you go into the whole thing with fasting. So what would happen is we have two prime directives as a smart monkey. We share 99% of our DNA with a chimpanzee. Our two prime directives, hardwired for, is not to die. We don't want to die. So our body is going to keep us alive any way it can. And the second one is to procreate, to reproduce, so we can keep the species going. So we're kind of hardwired for that. So our body is really, really smart. So what it does is we have different mechanisms in our body, and one of them is called the AMPK switch. It's called the fat switch. There's another book on that. In fact, it's called the fat switch. So this AMPK switch we have inside of us, what it does is it's constantly monitoring calories. Is there enough calories? And what happens is if we keep getting calories coming in, that fat switch is turned off. In other words, it's turned off because we got enough calories and we don't have to have any problems. But just like a Prius, like a hybrid car, it can either burn on gasoline, which some people consider dirty fuel, or electric, which is considered a clean fuel. The way to think about yourself, you're a hybrid. You can burn two fuels. You can burn sugar, glucose, which actually is a dirty fuel, or you can burn, fat or ketones. Fat's broken down into ketones, and that's a very clean fuel. The other thing, you get a lot more energy out of ketones than you do out of sugar. Sugar goes through you really, really quickly. I was talking to Meg, who's in the next room, and her brother plays soccer. And it used to be the old days, the Boston Marathon, people would carb load the night before. They'd build as much carbs as they could. But you burn through carbs relatively quickly. But ketones, you burn through much, much more slowly. So I was mentioning to Meg, I'm going to bring in, I guess, something called exogenous ketones. You can just drink them. You don't have to produce them. And that may help her brother out if he's playing soccer. In fact, a lot of the top athletes now that have won all these marathons, they're burning ketones. They're on a ketogenic diet. And they're not worried so much because, again, you go through these carbs very, very quickly. So what happens is, even if you're an extremely lean person, you have a lot of fat on you to burn. Again, because we're hardwired for that. We're hardwired to store calories because we're going to go through that long winter, that long period of time. So what happens is, any time that we're out there as the hunter-gatherers, we're the cavemen and cave women, and we're walking along, if we run across a bunch of berries and stuff like that, or anything like that, we're gonna pig out on that. We're gonna eat as much as we can because again, we're hardwired. We're gonna go a long period of time without eating, or we're gonna be fasting, so we're gonna hardwire. So anytime you have that, it lights up a part of your brain, an addictive part of your brain. They've done studies on this, and they found out the same part of your brain that's lit up by doing cocaine is the same part of your brain that's lit up by eating all these sugary calories. And food companies, what they do is they take advantage of that. So they'll get something that's what they call hyperpalatable. It tastes fantastic. It has salt, sugar, all that other stuff for you. Because again, that's your brain saying, give me more, give me more, give me more. The other thing that makes you get fatter is what happens is inside your gut, something called the microbiome. You have different type of bacteria in your gut. If you keep feeding yourself sugar over and over again, more and more of those bacteria that like sugar are going to proliferate. And you have something, your gut has something, there's a gut-brain axis, and there's something called the vagal nerve. It's like a two-way highway between your gut and your brain. It goes back and forth. And the brain talks to the gut talks to the brain. In fact, they're calling now the gut the second brain. In fact, you actually have neurons like in your head, in your gut too. So it's going back and forth. So the more of these bacteria you build up that like sugar, it's going to go up through the vagal nerve, the two-way highway, and say to the brain, give me more sugar, give me more sugar. That's how people get addicted to sugar, like cocaine, is because you're having all of these gut bacteria that is going up there. So obviously, every major religion in the world has got fasting in it. So you can take that the way you like, but obviously this goes back in history. So you can basically go for periods of time, and then what will happen? Let's say you're overweight. In fact, the seminar we gave on Sunday, we ask questions, we give our prizes, and I'm going to ask you to see if you can figure this out. What do you think is the longest, and this is a Guinness Book of World Record, the longest anyone's gone without eating any whole food? What do you think? We had guesses months, we had guesses weeks. I think a month or 6 weeks is like the longest. It was over 365 days. They have one guy from England. I got a picture of him. Actually, we were showing it up when we did the seminar. He was obese, and he went over a year without eating any whole food. Now, obviously, he was under a doctor's care, and he was drinking fluids, and you have to drink electrolytes. You got to replenish it. But he lost a ton of weight. So a lot of people, what they'll do is, and again, this is a medical advice. You got to do this if you're diabetic or or hypoglycemia. There's all kinds of stuff taken into account. But I'm going to give you a simpler way of doing it. What we talked about at the seminar. So just like a bear, when a bear before he hibernates, the bear goes out, he munches berries. The bear gets nice and fat so he can hibernate. We work the same way. We want to store a lot of calories. So when we're anticipating that long, hard winter, which for us never comes because now we have DoorDash, we have all kinds of stuff going on, and we can get food 24/7. We got refrigerators, we got pantries, we could just munch. You go by, you stop by at the gas station, you pick up your Oreo cookies, munch. So most people are eating 3 meals a day, plus they're eating between meals, they're munching, so they're constantly eating, and your body's doing what it's designed to do. You're storing calories, so that's why you're getting overweight. Right now, I think it's 40% of the population is overweight. 40% is obese, 50% is overweight. Our kids now are coming down with diabetes. When I was growing up, we used to call it adult onset diabetes or type 2 diabetes. They changed the name to type 2 diabetes because so many kids have it now. So it's not only adults now that are coming down with it, kids are coming down with type 2 diabetes. And what do they advertise on TV all the time? Frosted Flakes, Cocoa Puffs, all the rest of this stuff. And what are we giving our kids in the morning? We're giving them pretty much pure sugar, to eat in the morning, and they give the milk and everything else. And what's happening is that they're getting obese because this is they're hardwired. Kids are hardwired too to want this sugar. So that's what's happening. So there's two things. This is kind of pretty popular now. Most people are going to have a very, very hard time fasting. Just stop eating. Very, very hard to do. But I like to tell clients we got to do baby steps. We got to ease into this. I'm not suggesting that you need to fast, but there's two things called intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating. What it means is you can still eat all your calories, but you need to eat it in a very specific window. So this is what they call time-restricted eating. I was on, I think, the Peter Bluth show a few years ago, and Peter interviewed me. And this topic goes back. This maybe was 5 years ago, and I was also on the cable TV show in terms of This Week in Worcester, and it had pretty much the same conversation. And we wanted to talk about this intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating. And so I said, well, you want to try to go at least 12 hours without any calories. And then Peter, or whatever the host was, said to me, 12 hours, that's a long time. I said, okay, wait a minute. How many hours are you supposed to sleep? 8 hours, okay. And you're not supposed to eat within 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, and there's a reason for that. There's something called a circadian rhythm. Again, this goes back to our caveman days. We're tied to the sun and to also eating. So our body has got its internal clocks that go like that. So what happens is if you eat within 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, first of all the blood goes to your stomach because it has to digest that food, okay? If it goes into your stomach, it's coming out of your brain. And the other thing is, because we're smart monkeys, what it's doing is it's basically saying, you shouldn't be going to sleep now. So you're going to have a hard time sleeping if you got food in your stomach because, again, you're throwing off your circadian rhythm, and there's not enough blood in your brain to help you sleep. So again, so we got 8 hours, and so then let's say we go 3 hours. Okay, so that's before you go to bed. That's 8 and 3. That's 11. Okay, we're almost there. Then maybe you can hang in the morning. A lot of people don't like this, but you could have, if you could just do black coffee in the morning or just water in the morning, another hour. There's your 12 hours. You've got your 12 hours. So you've gone through that fast. What happens is when we eat, the first place that the blood sugar goes is to your brain, because your brain's a big sugar hog, and the second place it goes to your muscles. The reason it goes into your muscles is because, again, we're smart monkeys. We want to be able to run away from the lion or the tiger. So your muscles have what they call glycogen in it all the time to be able to run away. The other place it's stored is in your liver. It's called glycogen. But you only can store so much glycogen. So in other words, that 10 to 12 hours, while you're sleeping, you're not eating, hopefully. While you're sleeping, what it's doing is it's pulling the glycogen out of your liver. The glycogen, think about glycogen is kind of like in your refrigerator. You have, let's say you want ice. For some reason you couldn't store water. You would put ice cubes up in the refrigerator, and then you take it out. They would melt. You get water. It's the same way with glycogen. Glycogen is like ice cubes in your liver, and then when you need it, it melts it and it puts it into your body So you get the sugar for your brain and for your muscles. That's only going to last 10 to 12 hours. You've gone through your glycogen stores, no more glycogen. Your body still needs fuel. So then it goes into your fat stores. And I don't care how lean you are, you've got fat stores for that. So what'll happen if you want to lose weight by doing this intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, it's going to start pulling the fat out of your, it's called your adipocytes. Your adipocytes are really your fat cells, fancy word for fat cells. It's called adipocytes. It comes out of there. So you're going to be burning. Burning that fat. So they've done tons and tons of studies on this. And the best way to lose weight is not with Ozempic, those GLP-1 agonists. That messes up a bunch of stuff. You can do it this way. And again, I'm not saying if you're a sugar addict and you're used to this stuff, I'm not suggesting you do this overnight. So what I do with clients, okay, I did this with a client just last week. I said, okay, can you, do you sleep 8 hours? Yeah, I'll try to sleep 8 hours, great. Can you go at least 2 to 3 hours without eating any calories before you go to bed? Yeah, I can do that. Can you hang in there for maybe another, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? See what I'm saying? We go 11 hours, then 15 minutes, and you keep stretching it out. Eventually your body will adapt to it. The longer you go, basically without eating, the more fat you're pulling out of your adipocytes, your fat cells. You're pulling out of there. So that's the best and the safest way to lose weight. The other thing that you can do if you really want to ramp it up and go to the next level is what happens is, again, you've already gone through your glycogen stores. If you've gone those 11, 12 hours. I like to call them exercise snacks. So one of the things, and you can email me, phil.george@charter.net. What you can do is what they call air squats. It's kind of just, I'll see if I can do it, Art. All you want to do basically is make believe, I don't know if you can see. Anyway, you're going to go down like this, like you're sitting in a chair, and do 10 of those. If you can't do 10, do 8, do 7, do whatever you can do. What happens is the largest muscles in your body are your quadriceps by your thigh and your glutes. Those are the biggest muscles. So by you doing these air squats, what's happening is it's sucking in, these are called glucose hogs, basically glucose disposal agents. It sucks the muscle, it sucks the sugar into the muscle. So you're really depleting all of that sugar, so you're going to want to burn more and more fat. The other thing is, if you're doing those air squats, you're exercising. So you're exercising, you're burning calories. So you get a twofer here. The other thing you can do is, I think you can see me, you can do what they call desk push-ups. So I'm just going like this. So you get a kitchen counter. You don't have to do a full. A full push-up. You could just do those. So there's a really good book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. You really need to get into routines, okay? It takes 28 days to develop a new habit, okay? So what do it? So I exercise almost every day, but I've incorporated these exercise snacks into my routine. I got a good friend at the gym, the guy's in phenomenal shape. He's doing it, even though he's in phenomenal shape. So what happens is, most of the calories you burn are not in the gym. Most of the calories you burn actually in the outside, walking around. So what I say to clients, number one, never take the elevator, ever. Take the stairs, because you're walking up the stairs, you're working all your big muscles. So that's something easy to do. I have doctor's appointments. I see ear, nose, and throat a doctor once a year. I see because of skin cancer and stuff. I see a dermatologist, and they're up on the 3rd floor. It's a pretty good walk for me. So I walk up the stairs, I walk down the stairs. You get really, really good exercise, and you're burning calories and you're building muscles. The other thing you want to do in terms of to add on to this intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, again, let's say you're going to the supermarket. Instead of parking right at the front, park far away. Force yourself to walk up and back. Okay, you're going to burn a lot of calories. These are simple things you can do. The other thing that's happening in terms of what's happening when you're walking, you're building up the muscles. Remember the largest muscles in the body, the glutes and the quadriceps. Those are huge sugar hogs. We're bipods. We are on 2 feet, so we're meant to walk. And another good indicator of healthy aging is basically what they call leg strength. There's a test you can do. How fast can you walk a mile? That type of stuff. And based on your age, there's different things. So by you walking a lot and getting up and doing these exercise snacks, you're building up your muscles in your body. Muscles absorb a tremendous amount of sugar. It raises what's called your basal metabolic rate. What your basal metabolic rate is, how many calories you burn doing nothing, just existing, sleeping, how many calories you burn. The larger your muscle mass, the more calories you burn. So you want as much muscle mass as you can possibly get on you. Also women. The other reason why women want a lot of muscle mass, when you're building the muscle mass, you're also building up your bone mass. Women have a tendency, not so much men too, but more women, come down what they call osteopenia, osteoporosis, which is basically a wasting away of the bone. The other thing that happens as you age is called sarcopenia. That's wasting away of the muscles. So you have to work harder as you get older. When you get people like my age, you got to work. I got to work harder to keep up with the 20-year-old, okay? Because I'm gonna have a harder time building muscle than a 20-year-old does, okay? 20-year-old has more testosterone than I do. Women have testosterone too. But the reason it's especially important for women, by doing resistance exercises or those exercise snacks I talk about, is you're also straining your bone. If you strain your bone will get stronger. You'll build up more bone mass. A little bit of biochemistry here. So inside your bone, you have two different cells. One of them is called an osteoblast. Osteoblast puts bone into your bones, puts calcium into your bones. Osteoclasts take it out. So it's constantly churning it around over and over again to keep healthy bone. So what I tell women, and Meg, I hope you're listening. So what I tell younger women is, you got to build up the bone now. You got to build up that reserve for when you reach menopause. You want to build up that bone mass. The more bone mass you have when you reach perimenopause and menopause, it's going to you're going to have a reserve to go with it. Because women are a lot more susceptible to hip fractures, bone fractures. Another study, they found out when a person past the age of 60, whatever the age is, if they have a hip fracture, 50% of those people will be dead within a year. 50%. You don't want to have weak bones. You don't want to break those bones. So by exercising, you're getting a twofer. You're building muscle and you're building bone, for men too, but especially for women. So you young ladies out there, please, just don't do the treadmill, just don't do the aerobic stuff. If you only have time to do one thing, do resistance training. Either isometrics, which is like planks and things like that, or do those exercise snacks. You want to put stress on those muscles. A lot of clients I have, they're afraid they're going to get too bulky. You're not going to get bulky. You're going to get toned. You're going to get toned with that. So you've seen like women cheerleaders, gymnasts. These girls are like they're solid muscle, but they're toned. They're very toned. So that's what you want. You want those toned muscles. Again, you want to be able to build up the bone and also build up build up the muscle. So when you're doing all of those things together, it's going to have what they call a synergistic effect. It'll work in unison. So many people now are obsessed with losing weight, and they go to the Ozempic, the GLP-1 agonist. There's been a lot of studies on these GLP-1s, and what they found out, it also, in addition to burning fat, it also burns more muscle than you normally do. Because what happens is, if you burn more muscle, it's going to lower, again, your basal metabolic rate. If it lowers your basal metabolic rate, again, you're going to burn less calories doing nothing. I don't know if you remember that old show, The Biggest Loser. That's off the air now. And what they found was, they put them through these extreme diets and stuff. But what happens if you go through these extreme diets, and you wind up losing a lot of weight, your body goes into what they call starvation mode, and it lowers your basal metabolic rate. Because remember, number one thing, we don't want to die. So the body says, look, I'm going to starve. It lowers the amount of energy you're burning while you're at rest, and you don't want that. You want to be able to burn it. Again, your BMI, your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. So I have a scale at home. What it does is it's something called a DEXA scan. A DEXA scan is like an MRI, but what it does, you go inside of it, and it figures out how much muscle mass you have, how much bone mass you have, and also can figure out your basal metabolic rate. I have something like that at home. It's pretty accurate, and it tells me on my what it is. If I say my basal metabolic rate is going up, if I say my muscle mass is going up, I'm happy. I don't care about my weight. If my weight goes up, but my muscle mass is going up, my fat's going down, I'm happy, okay? Because I want as much muscle mass as I can, because I don't want sarcopenia, I don't want to fall down and break my hip. Again, ladies, watch out for this. It's never too late. Even if you're in perimenopause and menopause, you can still build bone, but you have to be a little bit more diligent in what you do. While I'm talking about building bone, in fact, at the seminar, when I gave, a lot of people asked me questions, and most people are deficient in vitamin D, vitamin D3, the sunshine vitamin. Especially, we're here in the Northeast, we don't get much sun, and so many people spend so much time indoors, you're not getting anything. Most people are vitamin D deficient, and what they recommend, I think the government's saying if it's less than 30, I believe it's nanograms per deciliter. I could be wrong, but it's all the same things you'll see on there. You want at least 40 is a minimum. You want a lot higher than that. So you want to be taking, almost everybody's deficient in vitamin D. Again, but you got to be careful where you get your supplements from, because a lot of the stuff is made in China, India. You don't know what's inside of it. So again, if you want to, I do health coaching. I don't charge you. All I ask is that you order the supplements from the company that I trust, because you need you need the D, you need the magnesium. But almost everybody in the seminar, even though their physicians were telling them to get vitamin D, what happens with vitamin D, one of the things it does, actually vitamin D is actually a hormone. It's responsible for many different things in your body. You want something called vitamin K2. K2, what happens is when D3 puts calcium into your blood, it can go to three places. It can go to your teeth, it can go to your bones, or it can go into your arteries. You don't want to go into your arteries, you come down with what they call atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, you get strokes, stuff like that. What the K2 does, the K2 basically takes the calcium and tells it go into the bones, go into the teeth, don't go into the arteries. In fact, somebody with atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, I can give them K2 alone, and that'll decalcify it. So K2 on its own. So for the women at the seminar, my clients, what I do with women is I give them, women hate to take pills. I don't blame them because their throat's smaller than ours, so it doesn't go down as well. I give them the D3, the K2, and the calcium, all in one pill. Okay, we got to be careful where you get this stuff from. So feel free to email me, philgeorge@charter.net. Again, I have a trusted supplement company, and it's what they call it's certified. In other words, they have third-party testing. So when it comes in, they make sure what's in there is supposed to be in there. Because think about this: if you can make supplements a lot cheaper, you can make them in China. China doesn't care about us. You got to be careful where you get your supplements from. So that's one thing you want to do. Again, you want to be able to get good supplements. The other one inside your bones too is magnesium. It's not just calcium. The other thing you have, actually, a large part of your bone is made up of collagen. Collagen is like the scaffolding. It's what the calcium, the magnesium is tied to. So you have to have a good amount of collagen also. Again, collagen is something else you want to get. So again, if you're looking to get healthy, what I do is these are the things I recommend. I'll give you some key things you should take, and then, obviously cost is an issue for everybody. So you want to, I'll give you the key things you really, really need, and I'll look at your lab work and see exactly what you need. So we're coming up at the end of the show. So again, feel free to email me, philgeorge@charter.net. Again, if you want to consult, email me. We can arrange to get together. I'll go over your lab work with you. And again, I got a Kelly, she's a holistic nutritionist. I team up with her. We do a lot of seminars together. We do a lot of coaching together. And we have another seminar next month. So when we find out what that subject's going to be, I'll let you know. But again, stay healthy. But again, it's not you. Your nature wants you to be fat. We're hardwired to be fat. But I can give you ways to get around that. So if you want to lose weight, email me, philgeorge@charter.net. Has some suggestions for you. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye. One of the most common questions I'm asked as a biochemist and health coach is, what are the best supplements to take? Choosing supplements is a tricky business. Many companies have poor quality control and questionable ingredients. In the past, I had to send clients to several different websites. I am now able to offer one-stop shopping for all the quality brands I recommend with no shipping cost and a lower price in most cases. Just email me, philgeorge@charter.net, for a free consult.